So on Monday we talked about mobile game analytics, and so that was all about the key analytics that you need to worry, think about, and that investors think about, and so it was really just talking about what they are. We had a little bit of discussion about you know what people do to improve them. But this one is really focused on the techniques for optimizing mobile game analytics. And so the first slide here is just again a reminder that the key metrics are those user acquisition metrics that we want to optimize. And really, what we're trying to do here is reduce the cost. You want to get as many users as possible for the least amount of money. And then there's engagement metrics, so you want your users engaged. How do you do that? You want them really, working with you and excited about what you're doing. And then there's retention metrics. You want them coming back, right? You want them always coming back and like playing your game and telling their friends about what you're doing. And then monetization, you want them spending money. So these are the things. This is how you make a profitable game. All of your users engaged, as many as possible, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So it's okay.
I can see the presentation.
You can't see it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's Google Hangout. There we go. Good. To use this silly program. Let me go back here. I don't know how to get rid of this showcase. There we go. So let's try this again. Can you see it now?
No, not yet.
Right.
Not yet. I can see it.
You can see it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you can see it now?
No. I don't know what happened. I cannot see the presentation.
Huh. How about now?
No yet.
That's a problem.
How about now?
No, sorry, I can see it.
I wonder whether we should do this over Skype.
Yeah, Skype is so much better.
Yeah?
Maybe Skype. Luis?
I won't be able to record it on Skype.
Oh, he won't be able to record it.
Oh, I see. You're recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Luis, you can see the presentation?
No, I can't. Maybe you guys log in or log out and back in.
Yeah, we did. Well, when we get out of Google Hangout and then get back in.
Let me try that.
Because I was seeing it at the beginning.
You see it now?
No.
No.
We're gonna have to get out and go back.
Yeah, maybe that will work. ¿Y cómo van con el juego, Anabel?
Bien. Pues en estos momentos estamos como recopilando toda esta información para empezar a definir los mercados, a qué personas irá dirigido y todo eso. Yo creo que ha sido muy provechoso pues con Jordan y Radica, pues genial porque tenemos una información como más de la mano. Y la parte de design, pues todas las recomendaciones que han hecho, pues se están teniendo en cuenta, ¿no? Entonces, vamos avanzando en eso.
Y como es ahí, sí, es mucha información y analizar tanta información tan rápido no es tan fácil.
Sí, claro, claro, claro. Además, estamos en el lanzamiento, estamos previos al lanzamiento de otra aplicación, nuestra primera aplicación social, entonces estamos corriendo también con eso.
Claro.
Ajá.
Pero bueno, esa información también le sirve para la aplicación también, lo cual es
Sí,
bueno.
claro, claro, no, para todo, de hecho nos sirve para todo. Y es muy necesaria, la requeríamos pues prontamente. Entonces,
Excelente,
vamos.
excelente. Igual
Annabelle,
todo lo...
Luis,
Oh,
Annabelle, Luis,
yeah,
can you see the presentation?
yes.
Yeah.
No te escucho.
¿Ya la puedes ver?
No, no, no.
¿Tú ves las diapositivas?
Yo sí.
¿Tú sí?
Sí.
No, no sé qué pasa. ¿Será que me desconecto y me vuelvo a conectar? ¿Cuelgo y
Dale
vuelvo?
clic, dale clic al iconito de Jordan.
Maybe Annabelle needs to log back in.
Maybe because Luis can see the
No,
she can't.
Yeah, I think she needs to log.
no.
Trata de volver a entrar.
Just green tea.
¿Qué? No.
You guys can log back in.
Voy a colgar y vuelvo a entrar, ¿vale?
Dale.
So, Luis, how are you?
Good, good.
Great.
A little bit sick, but good.
Oh no, that's not.
I don't know. It's been like yeah, all this week a little bit sick, but good.
But hot and
Yeah,
cold
it's
in the
cold in the
morning.
morning, then it gets really hot.
Yeah, it's actually
Yeah.
quite cool in the morning and so hot in the afternoon.
Yeah, and then like here everybody's been sick where I'm at, so it kind of like pass on.
I see.
Ah,
That's not good.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll get better than the long weekend. So do you guys have some plans for the long weekend?
Just moving. Moving things from one place to another.
Okay.
Just place that I've two places that I already have, so it's just consolidating,
Okay.
taking things from two places and putting it in one place.
Okay, got
Sorry.
it.
And Radika has a big party.
yeah, I'm having some people coming over on Sunday, and it's a big production. So,
That's fun.
well, it would ordinarily be fun, but we've been so busy, Luis. I'm a little tired. I'm not in the mood to entertain yet. Gotta get into it by Sunday, tomorrow and
Yeah.
and whatnot, and
Need some downtime.
yeah. Luis, do you think there is a little bit of flexibility in pushing our mentoring sessions from say 9 to say 9:30 or so?
Yeah, I think so.
Flexibility?
We'll have to, yeah, and we can talk to them. Well, can you do it also later in the afternoon?
Yeah, we could do it. It's just that we keep very, very late hours at night.
Okay.
And Jordan was up till, I don't know, 3. Yeah, he was up until 3 last night.
Oh wow.
And so it gets very tiring. And when you're presenting, it's like it's not just participating in a call.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of you have to you're on. You have to be on, right? And
Yeah,
so if we could push it back by half an hour or even an hour, like to start our time 10 o'clock, that would be so much nicer than 9.
Yeah, I'll ask them. I know that for them also a good time. It's 12 our time.
Oh, 12 our time. That would work. We just have to work around it. Sometimes we have lots of lunches. Yeah.
Okay, so better or 9:30 could be. We can ask them.
We can ask them if it's okay for their lunchtime, say 12 to 2, which would be 10 to 12 our time.
No, I don't think they'd want to do it over lunch.
Yeah, that was.
Maybe 9:30. Yeah, maybe our
I think
time.
it's 10 to 12, maybe.
That's what I said.
For us.
Yeah, which is 12 to 2.
Yeah, 10 to 12. I had it before, and they said they couldn't do it at that time. They're complaining.
Mm.
Wait, okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Maybe 9:30 to 11:30 our time.
Yeah, I think that would work. It should be alright.
It's just a half an hour push, but even that half an hour would probably make a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, and Annabelle is saying that she can't hear us.
Uh-oh.
So Skype doesn't have a record capability?
Not that I know of.
That's surprising.
Yeah, it's always this little problem with Google Hangouts. It's always something.
Yeah, Google Hangouts technology is not very stable.
Yeah, it's always like
Problem with it.
sometimes I can't log in. Let me see if I can send it again.
This is working in that storage locker.
I know. Just the stale error and all that.
Así. Get out.
Well, we can hear her now. She can't hear us?
No, that was the one.
¿Nos escuchas?
Get out.
That's weird. Let's see. She's typing something. Oh, she's here.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear her.
Annabelle?
Can she hear us?
No. Annabelle?
Actually, last night.
She's there, but.
Why as an idiot?
I don't know what to do. She didn't get the name.
Luis,
Yes.
I wanted to say, just since we're on the line, this Maya. We'll talk later.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have some problems with my network.
I see.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
¿Puedes ver la presentación de Jordan?
Sí. Ahí ya está la presentación, sí, ya la puedo ver.
You can see it.
Okay. So, can I continue now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, welcome back. So, like we were talking about, we want to optimize user acquisition, user engagement, user retention, and user monetization. So the rest of this short presentation is going to cover how you do that from a high level, because these are really the most important things for a game.
Yes.
So user acquisition strategies, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to reduce the cost of acquiring new users. Because if you can reduce the cost and be successful, at the same time, then you can get lots of users for not a lot of money. And that's really exciting, right? You have no cost of user acquisition. So some of these things are kind of common sense. First, you want to target an audience that will like your game, right? So there's no point, advertising or telling people about your game for, maybe you do a children's game and then you go to an audience that is an adult. So that would not be the best thing to do. So you really want to target the right audience. Then you want to use social media campaigns with that audience. And you also want to have, in many cases, contests. Contests are usually very effective for a couple reasons. One reason is it gamifies the process of acquiring users. So, for example, the reason that contests are popular is if you would give each person a big prize, it would be very expensive. But if you have one large prize that goes just to one person and everybody wants to win it, then people will want to try to win that prize because it's very attractive. But again, you only have to pay out to one. But you can get hundreds or thousands of people excited to join the campaign, to join your game, to download it, with very little cost to you. Another is building campaigns with strong partners. So Luis has seen a lot of success in working with Microsoft, as well as press releases, but also you can work with publishers. So working with someone who has a lot of muscle and has many users that they can access, and those users care about them. Those are different things that you can do, that will reduce your cost of user acquisition. Also, it's my understanding that on Google Play, the higher the level of engagement of the users, the higher your rank. It's actually something that Google Play does. It looks like iOS will do this soon, though I'm not sure if they do it now. Luis, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So what I was wondering is, in the information that I know about, people I've talked to, they have told me that on Google Play, that your rank in Google Play, so where you show up, when somebody is doing a search, it's related to user engagement, right? It's not just number of downloads. There's also part of the formula is user engagement. Do you know if that is part of the iOS App Store yet?
Yeah, the iOS App Stores, they have a formula which is engagement, but they also add like the past purchases and past downloads of the past days. So
right.
They have a more complicated formula.
Yeah. So a good thing about focusing on engagement is that the rank of your game, when someone does a search, will rise up, and the higher you are, the more likely that somebody is to click on you, and therefore it reduces the cost of getting new users on board without having to pay more money. And then it's very important to measure your campaigns and focus on return on investment. So if you do some campaigns, and this is what is very popular or very common amongst game developers and game publishers, is they will run some campaigns and they'll see which ones are successful, and then the ones that are not successful they will not continue, and the ones that are successful they will continue. So really the only way you know that is if you can measure them. So this is again at a high level. Radhika will go into much more detail in these in her discussions next week when she's talking about specific marketing strategies. But I just wanted to give you something at a high level so that this gives you a general idea of ways to be more successful. And there's an article that you can click on when you get the presentation that also goes into detail in some of these things. So Annabelle, any questions or comments on any of these points? Yeah, I'm still there.
Annabelle, did you?
Hola?
Hola?
Annabelle?
Did she drop off?
I think she's still there.
Okay.
Oh. She left. Joined and left. Oh, sorry.
Sorry to hear that, Luis. That
I
you're not
know.
feeling well.
So yeah, it's been it's been a while since I was sick.
I know.
Mm.
It's usually you go, and so there's no time to get sick. But if everybody's
Yeah, well, I usually get sick on the 31st of December, and I think it's because I'm off, and then my body realizes that I don't have to work that day.
Oh,
exactly.
so New Year's Eve you're sick. Oh,
It has happened 2 years in a row.
oh no.
That's not good. Yeah, whenever you relax, that's usually when it's easier to get sick.
Yeah, it's true.
Is Annabelle back in or?
Now I'm trying to. I'm sending a message to the other chat to see if you can see.
Do you know also, Luis, why on different days there are different numbers of people on their side?
It's because they switched the team to see who's the information more relevant to.
I see. So this is more marketing focused.
Yeah, and Annabelle is doing that, and yeah. So when it's designed, there are other guys doing it.
The thing, though, is
Yeah, everyone should.
everyone really needs to know about this
Yeah.
stuff, right? Because the design of the product should also take these things into account, like you know, right?
Yeah.
And it's also from a very high level. This is not like drilling down
No.
into details.
Yeah.
It's really at a high level perspective. It's really a good idea for
All of them.
everybody to be engaged on, just awareness of all the different things that can
Yeah.
affect a game,
I
right?
mean, if the developers don't know about this stuff, they're not
Then
going
they're
to make
gonna
games
then that
properly.
causes also it's the classic example of engineering versus marketing.
Yeah,
And so when engineers don't understand the things that marketers are trying to achieve
yep,
for the game in terms of downloads or whatever, then
Yeah.
they're like, well, we don't see the point of this.
yeah. And then you get a big problem because the game is successful. So I would say it's actually more important for the engineers to see this presentation than Annabelle, because she's going to know a lot of this stuff, or at least be aware of it, whereas they have no concept or clue about these. And so I don't think it's a good idea for them not to be joining.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, I totally agree with you. And there is something that I've been trying to tell them since we started. Stuff like they needed to get down the mechanics, and then they like Charlie and Price told them the same, but they seem to be focused on something different and not to listen, because the other day they were trying to ask me about people that would teach them animations, and I told them, but you don't even know your game right now, so should you be focusing on the mechanics and other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that they kind of a little bit stubborn towards that.
Yeah, not coaching.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to reach for them to.
Well, maybe it's, you need to go through Andres.
Andres is the one that I talked to about this stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So
maybe
yeah,
Heido.
yeah.
I mean, it's the message has to trickle down essentially, because this is for their benefit, right?
Yeah. It seems kind of silly that only Annabelle is on the line.
It
No.
does.
She's not the mobile.
Yeah.
When you build free-to-play games, premium, the different person doesn't know this stuff. Because they have to build the game to implement these things. We don't have any other reference.
¿Escuchas?
Sí, ya, qué pena con ustedes. Tenemos problemas de internet acá, pero ya lo puedo solucionar, gracias.
Annabelle?
Yes?
We were just speaking with Luis about, that only you are on this call. And
Yeah.
actually, we feel it's more important. Like, you could actually miss this call, and it wouldn't really be that much of a problem because you're going to have the marketing-specific call.
Yes.
I think it's more important that the developers and your are on this call, and we're very confused why they're not here. Because when you're doing a free-to-play game,
Okay.
developers must understand these things. If the developers do not understand these things, your game will not be successful.
Okay.
In a free-to-play game, you can only make money from
Yes.
the mechanics of the game. And the mechanics of the game have to be developed to maximize these things. So, so that is why I don't know if it's possible to get some of the engineers on the line, but they really need to be. This presentation maybe will take 30 minutes, but we think it's really critical that they listen in.
Well, it's valuable for the entire team to be on the same page, right?
Yes.
So just
I'm gonna try to call them. So give me just 2 minutes. ¿Estás escuchando? Es que mira, lo que ellos me dicen es que por favor.
She's gonna know all this
yeah,
stuff,
and then
she's gonna
there's
communicate
gonna
with
be
them. They're
there's
not
gonna
know
be a
anything.
split, right?
Well, they won't know anything, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, we don't need to do any of that stuff.
Right. Well, it just creates a split in
the team.
in the team and the
Yeah.
thinking, and so the thinking has to be unified.
Yeah. They have got to at least know the high level.
Yeah.
That was the big shift that happened, is the developers
Yes.
know this stuff
Yes.
better than the marketers.
Better than I know.
They know it better
Because
than the
they're
marketers.
building it towards these things,
Yeah.
right? And they have to build based on.
Well, they have to do it with A/B testing in mind. They have
Yes.
to build it with the metrics in mind. They have
Yeah.
to build it with all of the tools have to actually be built into
Yeah.
the product, so it's
Yeah.
self-measuring.
Yes. Yes.
And
I agree.
if you don't have the engineers on board,
Well, I mean,
marketing was
I just
fail.
think that it's in general this is for the benefit of the whole team.
yeah,
They have to be on the same
startups are too
page.
small.
They are,
to have
and to
this
have
split
this,
thinking.
it's too corporate,
Yeah,
right?
it's way too corporate.
It's like, oh well, marketing, they can deal with
No.
the marketing. No, it's not.
No.
It's going to affect the entire game.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And small teams, everybody needs to.
Everybody needs to be on the same page, right?
Yeah, yeah. On design,
We're all
on
up in
everything.
speed mode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of cross training is even more important in smaller teams.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, last time we talked about the metrics. It's good for them to know, but this is the actual implementation. This is actually more important.
So while I have you on the line, Luis,
Yeah.
Jordan and I are in a little bit of a frustrated point with this Maya Rodriguez. You heard what happened with the last day. You know, they were supposed to cover our hotel stay,
Yeah.
and we ended up having to pay that. That's
With the Cartagena trip.
Yeah, no.
No.
We're talking about in
Bogota.
Bogota that made us pay for the extra night.
Well, she did.
Oh.
Or she did, and even though Juan Sandino had approved everything, Maria Luisa had approved it. She talked to Maya about this, and Maya basically blew everybody off, and so we ended up having to cover that. And we've been in email dialogue, and Maya is just. Frankly, she's being very difficult about this.
Well, she had. Well,
She said the bank was processing the payment. That was
1 month ago.
no, that was 2 weeks ago that we got that email. More than 2 weeks ago, and I sent a follow-up email saying we haven't received the payment. Jordan has not received the reimbursement. You said that it was in process. Could you please? Nothing, zero, not even a response to the email. And Maria Luisa and Juan Sandino and Carolina, they were all on the thread, on the email thread.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk to the people in Bogota so they can call them to their phones.
Yeah, because it's been a while now.
All right.
Sorry.
I'll look into it.
Right now.
All right.
That's our team of development, seniors and juniors development. So,
And Andres is there too?
yes, Andres is
Wonderful, wonderful.
next to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Luis. So thank you, everyone, for coming. We really think that this is very important for the whole team to understand. In the 10 years ago, you could have every group within a game company do something different. With online games, with mobile games, it's no longer possible. The whole team must know everything. And some people will know more detail, but at a high level, how to make a game successful must be something that everyone understands. It's not just marketing, it's not just sales, it's not just the engineers have to know certain things. The whole team needs to know how to make the game successful, and the engineers need to know how to build certain things into the product at a technical level for measurement. We had the last presentation was all about metrics. Those metrics can only be measured in many cases with the help of engineering. And engineering needs to understand why these metrics are important. And the reason they're important is the success of the company. The company can only be successful when all members of the team understand that the game has to be successful. If the game is not successful, the company goes out of business. And everybody's dreams cannot happen. And that's the big difference with a startup, is that every person is a very important part of the success. So that's why we wanted to make sure that everybody was on this call, because user metrics and how to optimize those user metrics is one of the most critical things that the whole team needs to understand. So what we wanted to do is, I'll just back up for a second. The key metrics to optimize are user acquisition metrics, user engagement metrics, user retention metrics, and user monetization metrics. And when you're talking about acquisition, with acquisition you're just trying to keep the costs low. You want as many users as possible at a low cost. So that's what we're trying to do. User engagement is you want people to like your game. You want people to play with it. You want them to spend a lot of time. You want them to upload videos about it. You want them to tell their friends about it. And that's, something very important. And then there's user retention. Not only are they telling their friends about it, but they're doing it for a long time. So how do you make sure that people are playing the game for a long period of time? A lot of these things, as you'll see, they take what's called A/B testing, and that's done with engineering working very closely with marketing every day. Every day, A/B testing is something that is measured, and then there are campaigns that are worked together on by both marketing and engineering. So it's very critical that both the engineers and the marketers are working together very closely and understand how to optimize these metrics. And at the end of the day, when you have good engagement, good retention, the monetization hopefully is also high. And what I'd like to do is just show you a couple graphics. This one is just something that unfortunately happens a lot, which is that game developers, they want retention, engagement, and monetization, but they have no idea how to do it. And because they don't know how to do it, their games are not successful. And so that's the goal. The goal, everybody knows that you want retention, everybody knows you want engagement, everybody knows you want monetization, but they don't know how to do it. And so the only way you can actually do it is to have the engineers and the marketing team working closely together, doing certain things. So with that being said, first, you know, you got to target an audience that, you know, will like your game. You have to use social media campaigns with contests, and then these campaigns need to be monitored. They need to be measured, and so there's different tools that will need to be built in, like Flurry, and you know, in most cases, this is engineering working with marketing, because there is some technical component to it in terms of integrating these measurement tools into the product, and then, you know, engineering, learning about how things are going. You know, are things going well? Are things not going well? Maybe the measurements being tweaked, or what is being measured being tweaked. And so this is the lifeblood of the game. The lifeblood of the game are users. If you don't have any users, then nobody cares about the game. And so this is the front end. But then there's those three things that we were talking about. And one thing I'd like to say about the acquisition is that there's a number of different ways. We talked about this last time. There's organic search, there's paid advertising, there's in-app referral, there's word of mouth. The in-app referral is, again, built into the game. If the game does not have the ability to send out information to the user, then you cannot have in-app referral. And in-app referral is one of the most powerful and cheapest ways to generate new users. So what in-app referral can be is you have two games, for example. One of the games can refer a user to the other game. And so it doesn't cost you any money, but it does need engineering. If you don't have that, you can't do it. Word of mouth social referral. This is where you need to have integration with Facebook, with Twitter, and you need to be able to post certain things. If engineering, for example, says, oh, you know, we want to be able to put your score on social referral, that's one thing. But marketing might find, as it's, you know, doing research or working with the users or tracking the metrics, that that's not actually important. It's not actually important to put your score up. What's important is you might want to have campaigns where, you know, if you get a certain number of friends to join, those friends get a particular reward. And if that's neatly packaged as a message that you can push out to your friends via social media, that can look very official, it can look exciting, and it can get more people to sign up. So again, this is something that, you know, engineering and marketing are working together, and it's a very dynamic process. It changes all the time, and so engineering is going to have to be modifying, coming up with patches, etc.
Jordan, if I may, I wanted to add a little bit something else, another point in addition to what you said, which is that, you know, when you're talking about various engagement methods, and we'll get into that more in detail next week. Engineering, for example, has the responsibility for creating the right kind of video trailers, the right kind of screenshots that capture the excitement of the game, that then marketers can take and then distribute those through social media channels. But to emphasize the very, very integrated approach where marketers and the engineering team, the developers, are working very closely hand in hand with these campaigns and with these engagement methods to maximize engagement, to maximize user acquisition, to maximize the buzz that is created around the game. I just wanted to add that to what the points you had already discussed.
Yeah, and that's also very important, that a lot of games these days have built-in video recording.
Yes.
And so, again, that's something that must come from engineering. If engineering does not build that into the game, then there's nothing that marketing can do. And yes, you can, in the, 2-3 years ago, engineers didn't build it in, and it was expected that the user would do it, right? The user would figure out how to record the game. That's not the standard anymore. And so if your game doesn't allow this, and you're expecting the user to do it, the users will go somewhere else. They're going to go to a different game where it's built in. And so in today's game development, it's a very different world than even a couple years ago. And there need to be weekly meetings between, if not even more common, between engineering and marketing to make sure that they're the right capabilities within the product, and they're being deployed properly. They have the the engineers also need to be told and excited about the success of certain things, so that they can see that their work is leading to more users. And everyone on the whole team should be focused on how do we get as many users as possible. So anyway, that's really something that we wanted to stress, is that it's a very different world in game development than even a few years ago. And because of the social and in-app capabilities that are necessary to be successful, that's the need for the whole team. So let's get into user engagement strategies. And with the user engagement strategies, this is where the A/B testing, and what you'll see is A/B testing is very important for user engagement, for user retention, and also for user monetization, all three. So you can have a lot of users. That's really important on the front end. But if they're not engaged, or they play it, I'll give you an example. I was playing Hill Climb, and Hill Climb, is kind of fun at the beginning, and then it gets harder, and you feel better, and you get excited, and you keep playing. They set certain goals for you that you should achieve, and you can pretty much achieve them. It's hard. It gets harder and harder, and so you have to you feel better about yourself. You feel smarter, when you're successful. But I hit a point in the game where I couldn't get to the next level, and because I couldn't get to the next level, I tried for a little while, but then I'm like, oh well, this game is too hard, and then I quit. Right? So that can happen at many points in the game. There's a lot of different seminars that you can go to where people quit at the tutorial. It doesn't have to be at the game itself. And so there's different exit points, and you want to make sure that each one of these potential exit points is measured and tested. So if you find that 90% of your users are quitting at the tutorial, well, that's a major problem. And the tutorial is, again, something that engineering builds into the game. So if that is creating a huge number of users to leave because it's too hard and users don't understand it, then it needs to be changed quickly. The next exit point could be the controls. People start playing the game, but then they find the controls to be too hard to use. So because it's too hard for them to play, there was one game that I was playing in mobile, and it had two different, you had to use both fingers and thumbs, and I just found it to be too complicated. It wasn't fun because I had to, use too many fingers in order to control what was happening, and I couldn't do it. I didn't have the dexterity, and so I kept losing. I couldn't get to the next level. So it's important to understand these things, right? In your users, there's different levels of users, and you might have to, after the game is launched, change the way that the users interact with the game. That again is a very serious engineering issue, and this can come from A/B testing. Now, A/B testing is something where you put out two different versions of the game at the same exact time, and you kind of evenly split the number of users. Say you have 1,000 users, 500 get version A of your game, and 500 of the users get version B of the game. But it's not a completely different game. You might only be testing one thing. It could be your tutorial. And the tutorial might be different in only one place. So with A/B testing, you try to minimize the differences. If there's too many differences, you don't know exactly what the problem is or if you've actually solved it. So for example, if in version A and version B there's 5 things different, well, if version B is working better, you might not know exactly which of those 5 is making it better. Is it all 5? Is it 3 of them? Is it 4? You know, so if you can reduce it down to, say, 2 things, then that's going to be easier to measure, and then it's something that you can maybe introduce into other areas of the game, for example. So are there any questions about A/B testing? Because it's a very critical capability which is used pretty heavily in mobile gaming today.
Any questions about A/B testing?
No.
Are you planning on A/B testing?
Hello, Annabelle, Andres. Any questions about A/B testing? Are you planning on using it, or using it already? Sure. Today we have a very good connection.
Is someone speaking? Hello?
Maybe we can check the chat session.
Okay. Luis, are you there?
Luis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm having some issues perhaps with the connection today for some reason. We're not sure whether they heard us or whether they had feedback about the A/B testing.
I think they did hear, because she said they didn't have any questions, but I don't know if they're listening right now.
Yeah, we're just wondering if they are using it.
Yeah.
Planning on using it.
Yeah. Okay. Anabel? Chat into another chat.
Yeah.
Luis, ¿nos
Oh, there you go.
Ah, ya, ahí está.
escuchas?
Ahora sí.
Sí.
You heard them momentarily.
We can hear you, but not anymore.
Anabel?
¿Sí, nos escuchas?
Sí, sí. Ah, no, ellos estaban preguntando si planeaban usar el A/B testing.
Sí. Los planeamos usar.
Oh, they have it. Okay.
Oh, you've got
Wonderful,
awesome. Wonderful. That's really, really good.
¿Sí te acuerdas?
Okay. Perfecto.
Okay. Also, in terms of user engagement, it's very important, like we mentioned, to have social features, right? So you can engage people. So having things where users can share information, they can chat with each other. Again, these are all, they can share out to social networks. These are all engineering-related features. Multiplayer is definitely something that is engineering-led. in terms of having the capability.
Yo lo tengo valiente. Sorry.
But helping users to share with each other, and there's a lot of things that people can share. Like, for example, you know, Clash of Clans, you can share certain things. You can share armies with each other. You can give people basically, you know, you can increase the size of their army, but you can't give them other things. You can't give them gold. You can give them elixir. That was always a bit frustrating for me because I would want people to give me these things so that I could do something, but you couldn't do it. It wasn't something possible in the game. Now the game has been successful, but saying me as myself, I was always a bit frustrated that I couldn't share as much as I wanted.
Excuse me, Jordan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we are talking about the A/B testing to optimize engagement.
Oh,
so, yeah, we are asking if you can give us some information about that, because that is really, really new for us. So it's wonderful if you can share us some information about that.
Okay, great. The main thing with A/B testing is it's quite complicated to do it just by yourself. You know, maybe 3 years ago, the engineers would build the A/B testing themselves, and they would get an A/B testing expert to go and do it. The good thing now, though, is those platforms that you can purchase. Like this one, I gave you a link for a firm called AppIterate. They have an A/B testing platform that you can purchase, and you can build it into your product. You don't have to go with this company, AppIterate. You can go with a different one, but you may want to have your engineers do some research into the platforms that are out there. And see which one is best for you. Also, Luis, are you? Well, actually, I'll ask Luis later. But
so I wanted to like interrupt for a second.
Oh, great.
I just wanted to add something out of our experience between engineering and marketing or design, and it happened to us where I will have a lot of meetings in San Francisco. There is a lot of different ad networks, A/B testing companies. It's a lot of them, and they will all like give you their best pitch. But when you actually implement them, you don't know which ones are good. Then you lose a lot of time debugging the game, or when you're trying to build the game from Unity for the Apple Store, then it will give you a lot of errors. You have to go back to the company and tell them, hey, fix this. So in that way, I made a mistake in the way that I didn't get to the technical part, and the person integrating didn't see it from the marketing or design point, and we had to take away a lot of SDKs and do a better research. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's very important that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And Luis, in terms of an A/B testing platform, which one do you think is good?
I think the one you're using.
AppIterate?
Yeah, I've used that before.
All right.
Wonderful.
So that may be an example, and there's also usually some open source, things as well that you can look at that your engineers can test and just kind of play with. Many times, also these firms, they'll have a try before you buy kind of capability, or you can set up like a little pilot with them. Plus, they also have webinars, and so you can learn about those. But there's a lot of technology that exists in the industry now that wasn't there a few years ago, and so there's new players coming in, and so it's important to go out into the marketplace and look up, like what Luis was saying, what's available. But keep in mind that the really cheap, newer players may not be as good as products that have been out there before. There may be some good ones, but look at reviews and check with the developer community. These are all technical, and so usually if there's a good user community around it that can give you support and feedback, that's very important. This is something else that's very different than maybe development 3-4 years ago. It used to be that gaming companies would kind of just develop all their stuff in-house, and there was just maybe a few things like the core platform, like Unity, or maybe it was the Doom engine or something like that they would use, but everything else they would build themselves. That's changing, where companies are using more and more third-party, and they're using something specific to gaming. So you might have used something for A/B testing for a different industry before and repurposed it for gaming, or maybe you were going to use Google Analytics for your game, but that's not really optimized. Now you're going to be using something like Flurry, for example. So products that are more optimized for gaming, and so your team wants, it's very important that the team does the research. So any questions about that? Is that pretty straightforward?
No, Jordan, it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, but the key things in terms of user engagement from a high level is that social and multiplayer make your game stickier, and stickiness isn't the same thing. Stickiness is kind of a mix of engagement and retention, but at the same time, people do tend to get more engaged with a game if they can play with their friends, and if they can share. If you're just by yourself, you're going to do your thing and you're going to leave. But if you're going to come in and you're going to be able to play with your friends, you might stay longer, right? And you might do more things. You might learn about different areas. You might play the game very differently. So you really want to help users to share with each other, but you really want to figure out how the users are going to share with each other. Like I mentioned with Clash of Clans, I wanted to share in a particular way and I couldn't, and that created some level of frustration for me. And this is, you really want to target the gameplay to a player's level, and keep in mind that there's usually two main kinds of gamers. There's just what are called noobs, right? Novice players, and they're going to kind of not know anything. And then you're going to have expert gamers, and they're going to know pretty much everything. And if you just have like one tutorial and one gameplay, it's possible that it might be too advanced for the novice game players, and it might be too easy for the experts. So now you have a game nobody wants to play, right? It's a fun game for you and your team, but the expert players don't like it because it's too easy, and the novice players don't like it because it's too hard. So you might actually want to have dynamic gameplay, meaning that when the user starts going through the tutorial, they might answer a few simple questions, like, have you played a lot of games? And that's it. And if they say yes, then you give them an expert, kind of path through the game. And if they say no, then you give them an easy path. And sophisticated games will actually have multiple versions of themselves for different types of players, and they'll dynamically switch based on how you're doing, what's the player's level. For example, in playing this game, like I was talking about Hill Climb, I found it not to be. There's one game I go back to over and over again, and I really like it. It's called Zombieville, and it's a really old game. But I'll play the new games. I'll play whatever comes out, and some of them I'll stick with. But I've been playing Zombieville for like 3 years. And the reason I go back to Zombieville is because, you know, there's these little houses that you duck into when the zombies are attacking you, and you can get rewards, like, on your level. And what I like about it is it will look to see, you have different weapons, and it looks to see which weapon you're using, and it gives you ammunition for what you're running out of. And if you're playing well, it gives you the right kind of ammunition. If you're not playing well, it gives you the wrong kind of ammunition. And so it forces you to play better. But if you start playing really well, then it rewards you with what you need. And I really like that because it makes the game really fun. And so it's an older game, but for me, it's always dynamically giving me the kind of play and path through the game to make it fun. And so I think that's really an important quality of games to keep the users engaged. And so, you know, I was working on this presentation, and then I started thinking about Zombieville, and I ended up playing it for like 30 minutes. So it's just to like check it out and think about some of these things, but it's, you know, users are going to have a favorite game, and hopefully it's going to be yours. That's the other thing, is providing achievable goals and good rewards, right? One thing with Hill Climb, why I wasn't engaged, is it made goals that weren't achievable. And then the rewards, which should have helped me to achieve my goals, they weren't good enough, you know? I tried over and over again with Hill Climb to upgrade my, you know, you can upgrade 4 things. So I upgraded and I upgraded and I upgraded, but I still couldn't get to the goal. And so at some point you get frustrated and you're like, I can't achieve my goal, so forget it. I don't like this game. So that's the thing. And you also want to make the game challenging, but not too challenging, right? Mm-hmm. So this is where you're targeting the gameplay, and competitive, right? When it's competitive with other players, with your friends, that makes it more engaging because you can share with your friends. And so this whole sharing, competition, and you know, making the game you know, really at the right level for the player. And this is really where your A/B testing comes in, right? You're going to be wanting to check with each of your levels, is this too hard for the novice players? Is this too easy, you know, for the you know, the more advanced players? So anyway, any questions on that?
No, Jordan, thank you.
Okay. So user retention strategies. So again, similarly, engaging friends in our groups plus multiplayer, providing leaderboards of not just one. There can be leaderboards of different types. So you're probably familiar with this, but you can have leaderboards, and you know, how far do you take that leaderboard? So in Clash of Clans, there were so many people playing that the leaderboard went out to the top 200. And I know a lot of people that they would actually look at all 200 people.
Wow.
So, and study their, you know, they would study their setup, they would study their gameplay, and they would pick somebody that they really liked. It wouldn't necessarily be the number 1 or number 2. It might be like number 55 person. And they would be like, I really like this person, you know, the way they play the game, and I want to track them. I want to follow them. So being able to follow people, you know, within the game and watch their videos, watch their, you know, their gameplay, that's very important. But, you know, in Clash of Clans, they have leaderboards, like you probably know, not just for the individual players, but also for the clans themselves. So having leaderboards of different kinds, and then contests on those leaderboards. So this gets people excited, you know, maybe over the next 2 weeks, you know, the top clan is going to get so-and-so, or the top person is going to get so-and-so, you know, such and such. So not only having leaderboards of different types, but engaging the people on those leaderboards, and then that becomes exciting for the other players because other players then have favorite people or favorite groups, favorite clans, and they're going to like get excited and just kind of watch, who is winning. Is your favorite clan or your favorite person, did they win the contest? Because it's maybe they're too far ahead of where you are. User retention strategies, Clash of Clans is really well known for this. When you're playing and you get attacked, it will send you a message, right? Like a text message that comes out on your screen. And when I was playing all the time, I used to get really angry when somebody would attack my my castle, and I'd be in the middle of a meeting and be like, I'd see that I was attacked, and I would be like, oh, as soon as this meeting is over, I'm going to go and get that guy back. So it creates, this sense of urgency. And, when I stopped playing, it would come back and say, it would make me feel bad.
Yeah.
That my troops were without a leader, they were hungry and tired, and they needed me to help them. And it many times would get me back into the game. But the thing that got me back into the game the most was the people that I felt I was letting down if I couldn't, give them things that were part of my clan, right? And so I probably played an additional 6 months. That's a long time in the life of a game. An additional 6 months when I was pretty much tired of the game, but I really liked the community. And, it wasn't just the community of my clan, but it was the community of the clans that were the top clans, right, and the top players, and just that whole community. So building that whole community, be it within the game or on YouTube or, on Facebook, it really keeps people playing. And I actually spent a lot more money in that period of time, too. And we'll get to user monetization. But it's retention, the longer people stay and the longer they're engaged, like you saw at the beginning, the more likely they are to pay. And it's true. If you're not playing a game, why are you going to pay anything? Right? And the longer you play it, the more you feel invested. I mean, I would think back and I had spent hundreds of hours on the game. And I'd be like, well, if I don't spend some money, all this time I spend is going to be wasted. So you really feel like you should be spending money at some point because the game gets really hard. And you don't want to be waiting so much time at the upper levels. And that's another retention strategy is, as the game gets harder, things take longer. And so you have to stick around, otherwise you can't do things. That can backfire. Right, but that's where your monetization comes in. You make things take longer, but you can pay money to speed things up, right? And so that's what I would do. I'd be like, wow, this is taking really long, and it's like, okay, I need to spend money. So providing different themes for time of year as well. I'm sure you know about that. But again, tailoring the game to the player, noob versus expert. Those user retention strategies that's probably one of the most important. Like I mentioned, with something simple like Hill Climb, they haven't done that, and I gave up on the game. Something like Clash of Clans, they're much more careful, and that's why they're still the #1 game, after all this time. If you look at, I've been looking at the forums and the user feedback on the Paris Hilton game. Sorry, not Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian game. The Kim Kardashian game, is doing very well, right? Her Hollywood game. But if you read a lot of the user feedback, it's getting more and more negative. It's not always positive. The people that are just getting on board are very positive about it. And so it's very good with the noob users. And because a lot of the demographic hasn't played this kind of a game before. And so they're excited about it and they're playing it. But the experts are getting really upset. They're like, this is kind of cookie cutter. It keeps having me do the same thing all the time. Or when I date A-listers, I can't get married to them. I really would like to get married to an A-lister, but it doesn't let me. I have to break up and I have to go and get another one. So, you see that the users are providing feedback, and I don't know if it's being listened to because I don't play the game, but you can see that the people that are becoming more expert are finding the game to become boring, and that's dangerous because your expert players are the ones that are going to pay the most money.
They're the whales.
Yeah, they're going to become your whales. So tailoring the game to the player experience, listening to the community, feeding not just with the A/B testing, but just there's like 68,000 messages like daily on Kim Kardashian's game. That's a lot to go through. And so you need to have your team going through those and kind of collecting data, just like what I was doing. It doesn't really take that long. You start to see themes. And I'm sure there must be products out there that help you to, find patterns in your user feedback in terms of what's working and what's
sentiment
not.
Analysis.
Yeah, what's the sentiment analysis? And then you can use that and feed that back into your A/B testing. But if you want once the game becomes successful, you really need to be constantly listening to your user community, and you want to be building a user community. So, any questions on that for user retention? Is anybody still there?
Annabelle?
Annabelle?
Hola, sí, estoy con el perfil de Luis. Es que mi computador no funciona. Se sale y entra la red. No, Radhika, tú me escuchas, ¿cierto?
Sí.
Ok, te lo voy a decir en español para que nos ayudes un poco.
Sí.
Vale, con respecto a la retención, o sea, las estrategias de retención, sí hemos tenido en cuenta algunas de las que ustedes pues ahí mencionan, ¿sí? Pero sin embargo, seguimos con ese del A/B testing para el usuario. Pues yo lo dije ahorita, nos gustaría que, no sé, eso es algo nuevo o cómo podemos nosotros tener ese tipo de test para poder nosotros como implementarlo, ¿cierto?
Entonces están trabajando el A/B testing, pero no han implementado aún.
No.
Pero qué pena, yo creo que lo que ellos quieren es un ejemplo mucho más claro para que les quede para que ellos lo tengan más claro.
So
eso.
They are doing the A/B testing, but they would like more concrete examples of how they can incorporate that into their game.
Okay. Like different platforms.
No, not different platforms, but like implementation of that testing, saying various things.
Yes, other example to use this kind of testing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes?
A/B testing, it can be like with your tutorial, for example. And I could find a case study on it, but I know I would go to talks maybe 2-3 years ago. Actually, tutorials were not common, and people were experimenting with them because there were a lot of new gamers, people that had never really played a game before, and so they didn't even know the basics, and so it became really important to have a tutorial. But what people were finding is that the tutorials were too hard. And so rather than helping people to play the game, it was actually making them run away even faster. So the tutorials could have multiple steps. And what they're trying to do with a tutorial is you want to get people up to speed as quickly as possible. But you want to give them enough information, not too much. And so it's a balance. And there may be multiple screens. And so people A/B test each screen of a tutorial. So what you can do is, but you usually do the A/B testing based on metrics. Mm-hmm. So for example, let's say you have 3 screens for your tutorial. Screen 1, and then they hit next, and then they go to screen 2, and then they go to screen 3. And you look at the metrics for how many people get to each page of the tutorial. So say at page 1 it's 100%, right? Page 2 is 30%, you're losing 70% of your people. You've got a problem. So that's where you would bring in A/B testing. You'd say, okay, I've got to change this. I don't know exactly how, but I'm going to look maybe at user feedback or sentiment, or which users are staying and which are not staying. And maybe what you're finding is that 70% are leaving because your tutorial is too hard, right? So that second screen you have to make easier. Now you relaunch with the second screen easier for half the users, and you find that, okay, it's 100% screen 1, and now it's 90% screen 2, so this is better. So now you've improved screen 2 so that 90% of people are getting through. You might try to figure out why those other 10% are leaving, but maybe you just say, well, we don't want to make it so easy that we alienate the higher level users are just going to get bored. And then you put the third screen in, and again it stays at 100%. So now you've come up with a tutorial that almost all of your users are going through, and then they start playing the game, and you continue to get good engagement, right? People are playing. So that would be an example for. You could also have level play, right? And so as you're going through a particular level, a player might be able to do a couple of things. So what you do is you measure, and maybe you find that the user can go to 5 places on your level, but you find that they're only going to 2, right? The other 3, even though you spend a lot of engineering time and you've done all kinds of things, they're not going to those other places. And so then you have to figure out why. And so you might do some testing and you find out, well, the rewards are better, in 2 places, or they're easier, right? Maybe it's an early level, and maybe those 3 other parts of the same level are too hard, or too scary, or confusing. So this is where you're using measurement. And if you want people to go to the other 3 places because maybe it will help to make the game more interesting, less boring, because there's more choice, maybe you choose to do that. But you make a choice based on user, the feedback. So this is where you're constantly measuring on each screen, each level. And the only way you can do that is if you have built-in measurement tools. If you don't have built-in measurement tools, you're just looking at sentiment analysis, it's going to be so high level that you're really not going to know if the A/B testing is going to be successful or not. Also, you're going to get a lot more lag in terms of the testing and whether or not the feedback is positive or not. So this is where the A/B testing and the measurement have to work hand in hand. So does that help in terms of some more concrete examples?
Annabelle?
Yes?
Was that better? Did you understand?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
We are really clear. Thank you.
Okay. And you can also use it, for your themes, right? Say you do a Christmas theme, and you think about different things. You think, well, somebody's saying on the team we should do a reindeer theme, and somebody else says, no, I think we should do something with Santa hats, right? Okay. And so then you run both and see what people like better. Maybe nobody likes reindeer. And he likes Santa hats better. So, so you can, run all kinds of things.
It's a good way to test user preferences for things.
Yes.
Yes. And it's specific to your community, right? So you might not really know with your community, like maybe it's a Finnish game. In Finland, they like reindeer. So they're going to like reindeer. Maybe they don't know anything about Santa hats. But you have to look and see where your user base is, and you may actually have different versions of the game maybe for different parts of the world. That's something else to think about. And Christmas doesn't play that well, say, in China in the same way. So you're push the same game as what you push for South America or a different part of the world.
Of course.
Okay, let me jump to the goal and the problem. So this is really looking at these three components: the engagement, the retention, and the monetization. You can have a game which has good retention and and maybe good monetization, but it could be considered boring. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of MMOs that you just do what's called grinding. Grinding means that the levels are really long and really hard, and all you do is kill the same monsters over and over again, right? So you're retained and you're monetizing because it gets boring. You're paying a lot of money, but there's very little engagement, and at some point it gets so boring. I would get to the point with some MMOs that I couldn't even get myself to log in. I would try to log in, and I couldn't. I couldn't, because it was like I would say, wow, I'm going to spend 3 hours once I log in doing something stupid. And even though I had spent a lot of money on it, I just couldn't do it. And I was just like, I can't spend 3 hours. I'm just not going to log in. You can have engagement and retention. It's a really fun game. People are engaged, but you're not getting any money. So, it's the poor developers, what they say here. It's just, I would just say it's a game that's going to fail because, yeah, it's really fun, but there's no money, right? And so all the developers are really happy. You've got a great community, but the game fails because nobody makes any money, and so the game has to shut down. And then you can have like a one-hit wonder. One-hit wonder is you have good engagement, you have strong monetization, but people don't retain. They're not retained, so they play for a week and then they quit. So what you really want is that sweet spot of all three, and so it's not enough to just have. This is the hard thing about mobile games. You could have, in the old days, or if you were just an indie, you could have great engagement and you were happy because it's just a hobby. You don't care if you're making any money. Or you can have great retention and engagement, and so you could be really excited. You have a very vibrant community, but again, you're not making any money. The problem with Zynga is you had engagement and monetization, or you had retention and monetization. People found it really boring after a while, and so people quit. And then Zynga started losing everyone. So you really have to have all three at the same time. It's what's called a trifecta. When you have three things that are all on a high level, it's called a trifecta. And that's really what you need, and that's what makes games, mobile games, really hard, especially because there's a lot of competition for people's time. So in user monetization strategies, Radhika will get into more detail on this, but the key things are in-app advertising and in-app purchases, so virtual goods. And in order to make, the advertising has to be not intrusive. So you don't want to be playing a game and all of a sudden there's a pop-up that covers the whole screen.
That's irritating.
Or they have to watch a video for 30 seconds, right? And it's like really frustrating. So it's got to be done in such a way that, yes, you make money, but your user isn't all of a sudden presented with something that stops them from playing. Good store design. So when people are making purchases, they need to be able to quickly find what they want. I've gone to some stores and I can't figure out how to use it, right? That's really bad store design. I want to purchase something, but I can't figure out how to use the store, and so I quit the game. This is the worst thing possible. I'm really having so much fun that I want to buy, but then I actually quit the game because I can't even figure out the store. And then you need the right pricing level, and not only do you need to have the right pricing level, you need the right products.
Variety, too.
The right variety, the right level, right? If I can buy a whole bunch of products, but, they're only good for noobs and they're not good for, again, the expert level, again, my top-level people are going to get frustrated and leave. This is where you engage the whales, and you want to classify all the different levels, right? So whales are at the very top. but you can have people under whales. You can have killer whales and dolphins and, you know, all these different levels of people, all the way down to guppies, that, you know, they're all going to want different types of products, and making sure that, you know, they're engaged with your monetization strategy, and that they're finding, you know, not only the right products but at the right price. You could have all the right products, but they're too expensive. You know, I'm going to say, well, I'm not paying for that. It's too much. I don't want to spend $5, you know, for a power-up. I think a power-up is worth 30 cents or 50 cents, right? So getting that pricing level right is really important. And then, you know, having these different products targeted to each level. You know, start at the beginning just between noobs and expert, or whales and everybody else. You know, it might be good enough. And then using A/B testing to identify the best products. So, you know, you can test out different products and see, you know, you put one product out there and 90% of people that are buying buy your product. That's really good, right? And then you do another product and only 5% of people, you know, buy it. Well, if it's expensive, maybe that's okay. But, you know, you have to look at what's the return on the investment of putting it out there. And if you have one product and not another, that means, you know, people are focused on one thing and not on something else. So these are, again, they're pretty high level, but they're just really trying to point you in the right direction and have you think about what are all the different types of problems and questions and things that you want to focus on in order to make your game successful. And again, you have to get all of them right all the time. If they're not all right all the time, well, then you're going to fall down on engagement. You're going to fall down on new users. You're going to fall down on monetization. And again, the more engaged, the better the monetization. The more retention, the better the monetization. And so that's why the VCs, they look at all of these metrics all the time. They, you know, you can have great MAUs. If you don't have good monetization, they might say not interested, right? You can have really good session length, but you have very few sessions. So they're going to say, well, you know, they're engaged once, but you don't have enough engagement because you don't have enough sessions. So you've got to have all the things working at all the same time. And that's what makes being successful and getting a hit so hard. So that basically finishes up the presentation. Any questions on that?
Give me just 1 minute. We are talking about the topics.
And again, this is engineering and marketing working together at everyone. It's not, you know, in a vacuum.
Yeah, it's really important.
These are the kinds of discussions we had at 8 Storms.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the area that Josh was an expert in.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just intuit what the users want, what the price should be, how many of each variety.
That's great.
Just like
yes, we are talking now about this. There's some topics about the monetization. So Andres is gonna be some questions about that. So,
yeah, great.
Okay.
Hola, Radica.
Hola.
Bien. Radica, yo me preguntaba era acerca de la economía del juego y cómo esta depende del engagement también. O sea, hasta qué punto nosotros manejamos ciertos ítems con cierto valor, cada cuánto nosotros generamos descuentos, cada cuánto nos hacemos estrategias, por ejemplo, de multiplicar la moneda si hace ciertas sesiones diarias. ¿Cómo manejaríamos nosotros eso? ¿Me hago entender?
Ah, es una pregunta bastante de larga proporción, pero voy a traducir. So it's a pretty broad question because he says, how do we, basically implement a monetization strategy? I mean, how do we know what kind of pricing to offer? What kind of engagement metrics are going to be valid? What kind of discounts you might want to offer various users? And so it's kind of a very, very broad question.
Yeah,
in terms of what kind of strategies
what people
to employ.
typically do is they bring in a monetization expert.
Yeah.
That's what we did with my team in my last company, my last gaming company, is the CEO had a good friend who was working with, and we just recruited him. We just said, hey, you're great. You know how to do this. Can you join our team? And we'll make you a co-founder. Because it's so amazingly important. And actually, interestingly enough, I don't know if he's the one behind the Kim Kardashian game, but he's at that company at a very high level, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one making Blue so successful. I'll give you an example. So if you look at MMOs, massively multiplayer online games, they're mostly free to play. And so he was working with one of their games. Actually, each of the games that he touched, he could increase versus the benchmarks in the industry, the monetization by 20 to 30%, and very consistently, and in some of the cases even higher. So I'll give you an example. There's one game that he was working on, and in MMOs, the average revenue per paying user can be like $60. That's kind of an average. You might remember when we were talking about mobile games, it's more like $20 to $30 is the kind of average. But in MMOs, it can be like $60. His average was like 100 to 120 per player that was playing. And that's double. And they also had very high user acquisition numbers as well. And they had very high conversion numbers. So this game was making crazy amounts of money, like tens of millions, millions or tens of millions a year, millions a month, for a single game. And so getting these experts that kind of have the experience is really, really helpful. And there's a lot of these people out there now. So I would say that's the #1 way to do it, is bring somebody on the team. It's the easiest way, because that person has the experience.
The other one, of course, we were talking about using A/B testing to identify various techniques that are going to be effective for the game. If you can't bring a person of that kind of caliber onto the team to advise the team, etc., there's always it'll take longer, but you can test various types of products, various types of engagement methods, and the different types of goods, the virtual goods store. So trying to offer various types of products to see which ones are monetizing better than others. And there's always the trial and error. Of course, it takes a little bit longer to start getting, a critical mass of things that are all working. But, and you don't have the ability to hire somebody of that caliber, like what Jordan was mentioning, or inviting that kind of a person to join the team. Even in an advisory capacity, you can certainly try things out and use it by identify by trial and error.
Yeah, and what I would say is, in combination with what Radhika is saying, is benchmarking.
Yes.
So look at for your users, what other games are they likely playing? And then see, like if you're with hardcore users on mobile, take a look at Clash of Clans, right? If you're going to be with, puzzle-oriented users, look at Rovio, right? Look at Angry Birds. So look and see what is working with those types of users, If it's going to be casual, go and look at Candy Crush, right? What's been most successful in your space? If you're, look at Sims, look at this Kim Kardashian game. What are they doing well? And try to copy it. And what you'll see is in games, it's a lot of copying. People are copying and then extending. They'll do something different, but you got to start with a base that's similar to something else.
So I think a good part of your strategy could be spent on this benchmarking effort to look at what's successful in different genres of games, so that you can see that there are certain features or attributes or monetizations, implementation strategies that are more successful than others. And so understanding what's successful and what's not, you can start arriving at a list of things that you can start checking out or implementing for your game and trying those out. So now you're not just trial and erroring just at random, but more so arriving at a trial and error process with a list that you think has actually some measure of success because of the benchmarks that you've established.
Yeah. Like, for example, when Luis was looking at building this endless runner, I know, his team was looking at Temple Run, for example, and saying, well, we're going to do something like Temple Run, but we're going to be using a car, right? Not just a person. We're not going to be in a jungle. We're going to be in a city. And then when there was a city one, like the subway one that came out, then the team looks at that as well. And you're going to say, then you're going to read in the press what's doing well with that game. If the game is really good at engagement, well, but not good at monetization. Well, don't copy their monetization stuff. But look at what they're doing with engagement, copy that. Look at a different game. Maybe it has poor engagement, but it's really good in monetization. So, okay, copy that. Or maybe it's good in retention. So you're constantly benchmarking and playing other people's games. Play your competition's games. Play games for your user demographic. That's what we would do with MMOs, for example, is the team would my team would constantly play all the competition's games. We would have contests where we would go and just say, we're going to take this afternoon and we're just going to play all the competition's games. And the good thing is that they're all multiplayer, as we could play as a team with MMOs.
And discuss.
And you discuss it while you're playing it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, wow, this is kind of fun. We should put that into our game.
There's a lot of borrowing that goes on between games, but that is often a good way to see what's working, what's not working, what's fun, what's not fun, what users are saying, communities that are responding to certain games and saying this is good or that's good. I mean, with the Kim Kardashian game, like what Jordan was saying, the user community saying all the noobs are doing really well, which means their user acquisition strategy is very, very good. Maybe their monetization strategy is very good, but maybe the retention is not so good because people are getting bored with it because they're being offered the same thing over and over. So looking and reading, I mean, this is really a team effort. So it's engineering, it's marketing, it's the leadership that's looking all at the very same things and discussing what's working, what's not working, and what they're going to try and what not to try. So at least when you do arrive at a list of what you're going to test out, it's a much more strategic approach rather than a random list.
Yeah, and if you look at the Kim Kardashian game, it's #1 in downloads, so it's hit #1. But in monetization, it's still Clash of Clans, right? So even though they're getting the most numbers of new users, they're not monetizing as well as Clash of Clans, and Clash of Clans has been out there for years. So the Clash of Clans teams has this down to a science, right? They really know their users well. They really know exactly what, how to monetize that kind of user. So again, study the games, look at how their store works, look at how they're, how they're engaging the whales. Look at, like what Radhika said, the community. Play the games. Play lots of games. Your team has to. Playing games is research. You want to be playing all the games that are similar to your game, and even those that aren't, if they touch on your demographic, right? So that's I would, you know, if you're going to be targeting female users, look at the Kim Kardashian game. If you're going to be targeting, you know, that demo, for example. But anyway, that's some ideas. There's a lot of benchmarking, a lot of copying, but also you want to differentiate. I mean, we would be playing the game, we'd be like, oh, that's kind of stupid. Why do they do that? We're going to definitely do this different, or we've already done this differently. This is going to make users want to come back to our game and not play that game, because that's like a really dumb thing that they did, right? So that's something that the whole team can do, and I don't know if you do that already. Does your whole team play games together? You know, do they play the games together and discuss them?
Andrés, Anabel?
Sí. Yes. Can you repeat the question again, please?
Oh, I was just wondering if your team plays games together.
Yes. Yes, all the time.
Wonderful.
We try.
All right.
Yes.
Good.
All the time we are playing the last game that are available on the stores. So.
Do you talk about them though from the point of view of engagement and retention? And
yes.
motivation?
Now we will look all these kind of topics into the games, right?
Yeah. Sometimes people just
that's
look
the exercise that we do.
Okay, good. Because I think a lot of people look at it from a game mechanic standpoint, but you also need to look at it, and that's why the engineers as well have to really know about these three concepts.
Yes, yes, it's really important.
All right. Other questions?
So, sorry if I can interrupt for a second. I wanted to add something. And that since the industry moves so fast, like you can see like new features added in new games. I also think that it's important to actually take one as a team and then take it all the way to testing and not leave it in the middle because something else came up. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that may happen.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we don't have any questions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope that there was some value in there, and you know, Radhika will get into more detail in some of these different areas from a marketing standpoint.
Okay.
And it'll break out each one into a separate presentation because there's a lot that you can do. This is again very high level, and she can also give you some case studies and things that they've done with Luis. And you know how they've been successful and what things that they've learned.
Okay.
So have a great weekend, and next week we have a holiday on Monday. Yeah.
Okay.
So our next call will be on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's already in the calendar on Tuesday.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, great.
So have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Alright.
Tenga un buen fin de semana.
Gracias, lo mismo. Que estén muy bien. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Adiós.
Bien.
And I'll send the presentation to Luis so he can upload it.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Bye, Jordan. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Adiós.
Bye.
Bye. Muchas gracias.